Hello, welcome to another of these video podcasts on keeping as young as possible for as long as possible, or being too young to get old. Today I'm going to be talking about diet, but not stringent diets, more the very thorny subject of comfort eating, which so many of us have problems with. But let me just, for those of you who don't know me, tell you who I am. I'm Christine Weber. I have written a great deal around the subject of aging and anti-aging. I've been a psychotherapist. I now write novels about midlife, and so all my characters are going through the same sort of things that I'm going through and you're possibly going through if you're in midlife yourself. And I still do some broadcasting. So that's me, and I'm not going to try and advise you exactly, and I'm certainly not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to share with you some things that I think might be of help because they've helped me or they've helped patients or friends. First of all, I'm quite prepared to accept you might be an absolute paragon of virtue and be a perfect weight, and jolly good for you if that's the case. But the fact is, in this country, that so many of us in midlife and beyond are overweight. And this does matter because it has implications for our health and our mental health as well, and our brain health, because we need really to be as active as we possibly can be, and if we get seriously overweight, well, we can't be active. And of course we are all trying, I think, to avoid the illnesses that you can prevent, like type 2 diabetes and certain forms of heart disease and cancer. So doctors would say that what we just have to remember is this: we have to use up more energy in the form of calories than we actually take in through eating. And it's as simple as that. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, yes, but I've got glands, or I've got this, or I've got that. But at the end of the day, that's what any doctor or any scientist will tell you. Just expend more energy, use up more energy, or at the same amount of energy as you're bringing in, and that will be a way to maintaining a better weight for you. As a general rule, what would I suggest in terms of eating? Well, I think a Mediterranean diet is reckoned to be a good diet by very many nutritionists and dietitians, and I think it's a good diet, so and the chances are that you're already doing it. Food, you see, is quite a complex issue, isn't it? Somebody can come to a therapist and say, I want to try hypnosis to give up smoking. And sometimes that'll work and sometimes it won't. But you can't go and get hypnosis to stop you eating, because you have to eat. So you have to find a way of eating that does not sabotage your health. And that's not easy. Food, we bring a lot of baggage to food. If you think about it, you know, when you were a child, you cried, mum gave you a biscuit, that sweet taste was a comfort for you. You've got that association. When I'm miserable, I need something sweet. We've all got these sort of food baggage things. We have to kind of recognize them, I think, but also know that we can't always indulge them. I think now I'm going to tell you about a client of mine. I'm going to call her Lizzie, which is not her real name, and I worked with her many years ago, but I worked quite a lot with serious overeaters. And often, of course, they had immense problems. Now, Lizzie, as I'm calling her, had a pretty miserable life. She had what she called a rubbish job. She'd got out of an abusive and horrible marriage. She was living in a very small place in an area she didn't know so well. Nothing was going really well for her, and I think it's absolutely entirely understandable that she had put on a good 4 stone in weight, and that her only reliable comfort, as she saw it, was food. So I worked with her, and one of the ways that you can work with overeaters, and I'm not suggesting you are one, but there may be people watching this who are, is that you've got to get away really from the calorific value of every single foodstuff. I know people who were very overweight, but who could tell you exactly how many calories there are in a rice cake, how many in a pudding. You know, they knew them all. In fact, I was once asked, it's a bit rude, how many calories there are in the male ejaculate. Just in case you're worried about that, it's not very many at all. But anyway, so people can get very focused on calories. And although I'm saying to you, you've got to expend more energy than you take in, at the same time, it doesn't help people who want to comfort eat to just know about calories. What they really need to look at is, why am I eating rather than what am I eating? So I worked with Lizzie, and we worked on this theory of comfort. What is comfort? So I would say to her, so what do you tend to do when you come home? And she would say, well, I have one biscuit, and then I have another biscuit, and then I have another biscuit, or I have a whole loaf of bread, and then I have dinner, and then I still feel that my life is miserable, so I probably have a chocolate or two. So she was having a lot of food. So I said, okay, so when is it comfortable? And she thought about it, and she said, well, the anticipation, you know, thinking I'm going to have that, I deserve it, I've had a rubbish day, that's pleasurable. And I said, and is it nice when it's in your mouth? Yes, she said, but I could see doubt crossing her mind at that point. Yes, I think it is. I said, so is it still a comfort as you swallow it? And she went, no. And I said, and how do you feel afterwards? She said, by the end of the evening, I loathe myself more than I did at the beginning of the evening. In other words, this comfort, as she so thought, was not very comfortable at all, was it? So from that point, we were able to look at, yes, you do need comfort, Lizzie. Your life is very, very difficult. So what could you do? And at this point, I want to just make a more generic reflection, I suppose. And that is, most of us make changes in our lives most effectively when we come up with the solution ourselves. If somebody says to you, now what I think you should do, the chances are you're not going to act upon it. If your wife has been saying to you for years, you ought to learn to swim, but you actually have never wanted to learn to swim, but suddenly you think, I think swimming would be a good exercise, you might then get some lessons and learn how to swim. That's how we work. So with Lizzie, I was not going to say, now what you must do. I had to get from her suggestions of what she could do to get comfort, but not sabotage her eating plan and her figure and her health. I needed to get her to own these things, to come up with them and own them. And these are what she came up with. When she really wanted to eat for comfort, she would email a friend, or she would have a hot bath with lots of bath oil in it. She took up knitting soft toys for charity. Now that would have driven me to the chocolate box, but she liked it and she was very good at it. And actually it gave her some contacts outside of her work and the house, and she got involved in that charity. So that was a very good one. She would go to bed early with a hot water bottle if it was cold and a good book. While she watched television, that was a time when she used to stray a bit, she would keep a stock of healthy nibbles in the fridge, like carrot sticks and celery, and she would nibble those when she watched TV. She would eat a proper dinner in the evening, sitting down, allowing herself to focus on what she was eating and listening to some nice music at the same time. And this was one that was very effective for her. When she knew she'd had enough food for the evening, she would clean her teeth even if it was 7:30 in the evening and not bedtime, because she felt that if she got a clean mouth, she would not want to muck it up by having more food. Didn't always work, but sometimes it did. So those were the things that she did. And the great thing is that once she'd got her weight under control and felt more in control of her life, it did transform her life slowly. She began to go out in the evenings because she didn't loathe her body so much. She actually began a course in business management so she could get a better job. And she also made friends with somebody that she worked with, and they started doing things together in the evenings. So just getting in control of something that was so out of control in her life made a vast difference to her. So in conclusion then, some of those things might work for you if you do have a problem with comfort eating, but let me just give you 3 more pointers. Eating does not solve emotional problems. Sometimes when we are sure we're hungry, we're thirsty. Sometimes when we're sure we're hungry, we're actually bored. So there are ways of getting comfort and remedying low mood and anxiety and all those sorts of things that don't necessarily include food. I hope this has been of interest to you. Bye-bye.